Hey guys, welcome back to the Noble Broker, and here we have your host, myself, Jonathan Lickstein, and Nathan Klutznick here with me today, and we are welcoming special guest, City Commissioner Alison Fournier from Pompano Beach, who is also a realtor. So we have a unique perspective coming at you today, not only about governance, but about real estate as well. As you know, on the Noble Broker, we are more than pretty people with pretty faces who show pretty houses. We are real people with real stories and real impacts in the local community, and we're here to hear people's stories and how their impact affects the rest of the community. So welcome, Alison.
Thank you so much. It is great to be here with you two today.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
Did you get that last name right?
Yeah.
Close. Fournier.
When I took the oath of office, I was so nervous that I just repeated after them, and the city clerk said my name wrong, and I said it wrong.
What did she say?
She said Fournier.
That's kind of, you had the R on there.
Fournier.
It's obviously French, right?
It is French Canadian.
Fournier.
There you go.
Fournier.
No, that's a little overkill.
You have to say it with that hand at the same time.
It's somewhere between that and what you said.
We'll stick with Alison.
Perfect. That's what I do.
That keeps it easy. So Alison, tell us a little bit about why you got into governance, why you got into volunteer and governance and just your involvement with the city.
Before we do that, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Alison, you've been a locator for
Good question.
for a while, right?
7
Six,
years.
7 years.
At
Yeah.
least
So you've
6
been
years.
a real estate agent for how long? Were you a real estate agent before you came over here?
No.
Oh, so you were a newbie and came straight to location. Well, thank you for that. What made you get into real estate before we get into the political side?
Wow, real estate. I moved a lot as a kid. So every year or two we moved, and I hated being the new kid, but my favorite part of moving was house hunting. It always was. So being part of the decision of the family and where we were moving. So I've always enjoyed real estate. And when I came down to Pompano Beach in 2011, it was a very interesting market down here. I had come from New York City where apartments are millions of dollars, and I showed up here in Pompano. I had gone to high school here before, but showed up in Pompano and realized there's a lot of opportunity here. So I actually got started investing in real estate in Pompano Beach in 2011. And
Very
then
cool.
obviously the natural progression there is to
Get your license
Exactly.
so you can represent yourself,
Exactly.
find those deals, have access to everything, right?
That was a really good time to get into real estate investing.
It was.
For sure.
Well, I had been an investment banker in New York City, so I was an M&A banker starting in 2006, and then there was one day in, I think, probably September of 2008 when the Lehman Brothers collapsed and Bear Stearns, all that happened, where our management looked at us and said, "You guys are all restructuring bankers now." We're no longer. So
we learned the game a little bit, right?
100%, yeah.
It's funny how regardless of industry that you're in, that the market dictates what your role is for other people and other consumers and businesses, right? So whether you're in banking, you're in real estate, when the market shifts to more of a buyer side or a seller motivated, then your role changes, right?
Yeah.
It's so intriguing.
You always have to be able to adjust.
Yeah.
So you started as an agent, or you started investing.
Investor.
Right.
Yeah.
Then of course, how many other people do you know that invest in real estate and got their real estate license? A bunch?
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty common, right?
It's definitely pretty common, right?
Yeah.
I started somewhat that way. I had my license first, but when I started real estate investing, having those tools available, just instant access, helped a lot. I didn't want to rely on.
Yeah, I also think the experience of having invested and bought and sold so many properties yourself makes you really effective to help people understand.
What kind of properties have you bought and invested in?
I've invested in single family homes and duplexes. That's it. So
Interesting. You still hold a lot of duplexes?
I'm holding some property.
Nice. Good for you.
Yeah, being on the investing side and then converting over gives you that unique perspective where so many people, and it's funny, there's a lot of licensees who don't own their own property, let alone their own home, that when you're converting over, you have the perspective of the other side and what you would expect or how you would expect the experience to go,
Yeah.
that you can cater your service and your interactions to that. It's almost the perfect setup.
Yeah.
I'm extremely realistic with people and maybe overly honest because I've been through so much when you own properties and you see what can happen here.
Yeah, it can get a little gritty sometimes, huh? So what kind of landlord are you? Are you a tough landlord? Are you a nice landlord? A little bit of both?
I'm a nice landlord. I mean, my first tenant is still a tenant of ours, so it's been, long-term residents, people who have made these properties their homes here in Pompano. And I'm pretty proud of that, actually.
There's definitely something to say about a 13-year tenant,
Exactly.
for sure.
Yeah, big time. Awesome. So when did you decide to run for city commission?
Oh, gosh, our terms are only 2 years, so it would have been a little over 2 years ago, back in 2022.
So what spawns something like that? What makes you wake up someday and be like, I want to go run for city commission, ultimately become a commissioner?
Yeah.
And
I have been involved in quite a bit with the city over the years, and I think, you become a bit of a squeaky wheel over there. You get to know what's going on, and once you start learning more about it, you realize that maybe some changes need to be made. And I definitely ran on a platform of change that we need. The residents in my district, I don't think were being heard in the way that they wanted it to, and maybe not represented as strongly as they wanted to be. So you kind of look around for the change and where's it coming, and like a lot of things in life, like everyone's pointing back at you.
Right.
So you're like, who's going to do this? And all of a sudden, it's like, I guess you're the one that's going to do it.
It's easy to sit on the sideline and complain, but you're someone who threw your hat in the ring and said, I'm not just going to complain about it, I'm going to do something about it.
Right.
Love that.
that's pretty sweet. So you represent District 3 here in Pompano Beach, right?
Yeah, District 3 is the place to be. I always say that. And we vote on things citywide in Pompano Beach, though. So I represent everyone in Pompano Beach. And we are a unique city. We have 5 districts here in Pompano. So there's 5 commissioners and a mayor. So there's 6 votes, which is an even number.
Well,
We are the
interesting.
only even number city commission in Broward County.
So what happens when there's a tie?
Nothing. You need
Nothing
to,
happens?
So 3 to 3 and
3 to 3
as if it
adopts.
didn't happen. Yeah.
So do you find that forces you guys to work more closely and actually come up with a way to pass things? Or does it become status quo or okay to just let a tie kind of play itself out?
I would love to say that it was the first thing you said where we have to work together, but we are a commission that there's a couple minority voices, of which I am often one, and then there's a majority of 4 to 5 that vote a certain way. So we don't really end up in those situations often.
Gotcha.
There's been very few 3 to 3.
Gotcha, interesting.
Well, it's nice at least the majority wants to move in a certain direction. For the most part.
When you're in the minority, it's not always nice.
Say what you want to say. So you're bringing a completely different perspective and you're an outsider, would you say?
I would say that. I ask a lot more questions and just really try to listen to what the people would want and vote in that way. So
I think that's really needed in government, especially someone who's going to question the status quo and be open to change. I mean, there's one thing that never changes is that things change. And when you're going into governance and government positions, if you just follow along, nothing will ever change, nothing will ever evolve. And the world we live in evolves every single day. So needing to have that vision of where are we going in the end and how do we get there?
Well, at the end of the day, you're sent there to represent the people that voted for you, right?
Yeah.
And the people who didn't, but the people that you're representing. And we always say here at the office that it's really good to have different opinions. We don't want the exact same people in the room. So it would be nice if there was a way where politically that could work well. And I don't know, maybe it does. Maybe sometimes it just doesn't feel that way, but maybe that process is actually positive. I'm not sure.
I think to your point on change, that's a really important thing to recognize. Our city has changed so much over the last decade, or even since 2011 longer. Think of what Pompano looked like and where we are now. It is so incredibly different, and there's so much good that we have accomplished. We really have. But we need to build the future for the next 20 years. It's going to work for my kids, your kids. I am really focused on a vision of Pompano being the absolute best place to live and do business in Broward County in 20 years. And that means great neighborhoods, great communities, and we have to protect those given all of the forces of growth and development that are happening. So I am not anti-development. I'm a realtor. I obviously know how important housing is. I mean, I think real estate is probably the most important important driver of our economy down here in South Florida.
I just said that to somebody.
100%. It is.
Yeah.
And all parts of it, right? From the high end to the affordable housing, getting all that right is critical. But I'm just really focused on making Pompano this like gem in Broward County that everyone wants to live in and go to.
So what would make it a gem? What does that vision look like?
Yeah.
What do you love about Pompano now? Or in 2011 when you moved here? Because I moved here in 2005 and I loved it because it was quiet. It was different. It was kind of like the little beach town that was forgotten about.
Gem.
And it needed some improvements. There was some blight in areas, and I feel like there's some negativity that obviously comes along with that. But I'm curious to know why you chose Pompano, what you think is great about it now, and then what is that 20-year vision to keep it a gym.
Yeah. So I think a lot of what attracted you to Pompano, the same thing attracted me to Pompano. We are kind of a hidden gem. It was kind of a small town in a big city, right? You would run into people you know at Publix. I still do. I love that. I absolutely love that we can know our neighbors, but there's also fun things to do. So we have built on the work done at the beach. That needed to happen. We had the most beautiful natural beach, but we needed to upgrade down there. I am focused on not overdoing it, right? So I want my kids to look back and not say, hey, Mom, why is every inch covered in 11-story apartment buildings with no grass and no parks? And, I always say, at one point, people thought it was a good idea to throw tires in the ocean, right? And it wasn't. So then you look back and we're like, what were they thinking?
Right.
So I don't want my kids to look back and go, what were you guys thinking, covering every bit of it in studio and one-bedroom apartments, right? The same product that's like, who's going,
And every single part of the beach covered in condos.
Exactly,
right?
Or 20-story buildings. So it's getting this balance right where, we still have a beautiful place to live. It's naturally beautiful here. Let's make sure that we, lean into that a bit and try to keep it, we need fun things to do. We need clean and safe neighborhoods, and we need to not overdo the development, I think.
It's almost like a double-edged sword because, affordable housing is a big topic, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But when you try and create affordable housing, you have to allow for space for this to be built and not super high density. And creating that housing need for the population that is in here or wants to move here, then you work on and you're focusing more on saturation and density and just being too much traffic, and then you have that issue. And you end up covering everything with pavement, right?
Yeah. It's tough because it does take such a long view, right? It's hard to look out 20, 30, 40 years and understand what the demands or needs are going to be. But, that's what urban planners do, right? And they're supposed to be able to create areas where there will be high density, areas where there's more parks, protect different areas. So kind of keep the balance of supply and demand appropriate, right? I feel like Pompano's been a little scattered all over the place. You see a building going up here, a building going up over here. And while I like cleaning up the streetscape, I feel like, it's challenging. First, you can't appease everyone all the time. I'm sure you've learned that very, very well, right? But, take for example, like the new downtown area. I think, it's great. It's right for development. But what is that going to look like 20 years from now? And why didn't we make that the area of density and keep some of the beach areas with decent setbacks?
Yeah.
Do you want to go down, Atlantic Boulevard or Copans eventually? Well, Copans is protected right now with the single family and the parks and everything. But would you want to come down Atlantic Boulevard and have buildings straight up on the sidewalks, or do you want to have setbacks? Those are all questions that I'm sure you ask.
And we have setbacks, but are they enough? So, a decade or so ago, we created these overlay districts to incentivize development. So we have, the Atlantic Overlay District, we have the TODs, like the transit-oriented corridors. We have all of these code overlay districts to incentivize development, right? But that doesn't mean we can make it happen exactly how we want. But I think it's important to look at what has happened in reality, what we actually did encourage with these districts, and maybe tweak them a bit. So I know Briny Avenue is something that there's a lot of discussion about. So along the beach side, you can build tall buildings now. Maybe that was something that shouldn't have been in the initial overlay district that we need to think about. It's just things where, because is that overdevelopment on the beach side? It's
Right.
different where you're further south, where, the Ritz and the Waldorf are going, but like right there on Briny, maybe that's too much.
Right, the real walkable area where you want retail.
Right. And then this whole urban development, like mixed use, we're going to work, live, play. I'm a bit of a cynic about some of that in South Florida, and I've lived in big cities. I lived in New York,
So we don't work,
Boston.
we're just going to play.
No, I'm okay. I just don't think you're going to do it all in the same spot, and I don't think you're going to walk and ride your bike. It's
some cities
tough to
go
get
into
vision,
that.
down here, right?
Some cities go into that, and you look at Delray, what it was and what it became, and that's the work, live, play right there. And if that's what you want to be, that's what you want to be. But there are many areas, like the charm of Pompano has been kind of being this hidden gem, right? Mm-hmm. So do you want to attract that kind of attention? Is that what the city ultimately is planning and looking forward to?
Well, it has to be in the right spot, right? I think closer to the beach, maybe you can. I was at ribbon cutting last night for Mela, the new apartments down by Publix there, and I can see how that could work. At least how you could
Are those the
live
ones
and
right
play.
across from the Bank of America building?
Yeah.
Wells Fargo?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
So I can see how you can. I don't know about work, but at least live and play in that area.
Well, there's plenty of commerce going on in Pompano for sure. There's lots of businesses housed here. I mean,
For sure.
locations, headquarters.
For
right
sure. I
here.
just don't know if you're gonna, I don't know if you're going to walk from there to your job, but
You have to be really lucky, like, in what job you get, right?
right.
Well, walking from the parking lot to the front door is hot enough as it is. Like, actually walking to work.
Get on your bike, and when it rains.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how that the tall development is at Solera that's going in down there on Briney. There's that new construction that is going to be absolutely massive, and that will really change the future of what Briney is going to look like in that beachside area.
Yeah.
Drastic.
What about the empty lot that's used for parking across from the plaza? Yeah, the white building there that was built, I want to say 2007, 2008.
Yeah, the parking lot.
The beach parking.
The grass parking lot.
Yeah, so we leased that, and there are plans to develop
There's
that.
plans to develop
Yeah.
that will massively change.
And well, this is so. If you think about what's approved down there, like on those corners, and it's a very tall building. It's 20 stories, I think, approved there. So parking, condos, hotel, and then there's another hotel approved, and where the Ray-Ban building was, there's development approved there too. So if everything actually gets developed, I call that a concrete jungle.
Right.
It's too much for that corner right there to have that many.
Yeah, how do you
buildings. But
what does that look like for the emergency planning? Because I mean, I know there's been talks already. You could probably speak to it far better than myself. But when they have different events down there already, the bridges have to stay down for a certain period of time. But people are locked between 14th and Atlantic for hours trying to get out of there. And I always wonder what happens if there's a serious emergency.
I wonder the same thing. We have our drone show. I think it's the third one, November 9th, and it is such a successful event. But you can't get in and out of there.
Yeah.
So
last year when you guys did that, it was awesome. I heard it was amazing. I was at an FAU football game with my son and my nephew. My sister was in town visiting my mom, who lives right there on Bryant, down at the end. Rents a little condo right down on the beach. Awesome little space. It's one of like the old, I don't even know the name of the building, but it's an old holdout building that's just one of the original 8-story condos, right? Super neat. So very nice.
I didn't touch it.
We're just throwing it in.
So we get back from the football game at like 11 or midnight, whatever it was, and my sister's like, "Hey, can you bring them?" And I was like, "Sorry, I'm tired. Do you mind just running up to my house and grabbing them?" She said it took her an hour and 45 minutes to get from my house down to the beach, all the way around because the roads were closed.
Yeah. We tried shuttles. We've tried everything. I think each year we get a little smarter on it, but it is a challenge. And I think, especially the drone show,
It's an attractor.
Right. And 4th of July is tough, but every city has their own fireworks at the same time, so you really only draw locally. That's a regional draw, the drone show. So it's a huge event. They did 2 of the drone show last year to try to attempt to spread it out, but it's still...
It's a massive undertaking. I mean, when you're hosting something like that, I have friends in Jupiter who are marked as going to it through the Facebook event. And you can see which friends have RSVP to it. And I had quite a few people from out of the area, 45, an hour and 15 minutes away, that are coming for that draw. So your reach is absolutely huge with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
It is.
So what else is in the cards for Pompano Beach that we might not know about? Getting the secrets here.
I don't. So everything we do is public record and is out there. We have sunshine laws in our state, so very little is a secret. In fact, people often know more than I do. They're telling me stuff, and I'm like, oh, really?
You have to put on a poker face. Yeah.
Well, the evolution and adding the Top Golf, for example, brought another draw. There's not too many of them in South Florida, being such a big golfing community. You'd think there would be, but I mean, there's Miami Gardens, then you've got Pompano, and then you've got West Palm.
Yeah, it's huge for us, and what's going on out there is going to be just a game changer. There's a residential, a hotel, the casino was redone, Top Golf, the brand new Publix shopping center that's going in there. I mean, that's going to be a flagship Publix with all of the retail around there. So, and then there's the industrial component. There was all the warehouses going in. It was supposed to be for Amazon, and then they backed out, and now it's going to be an industrial park there. So it is a huge development out there where the harness track was.
You ever go to Top Golf?
Yes, I do. I recently started golfing. Do you golf at our municipal golf course?
Of course.
Yes, I recently started golfing. I am horrible, but I love being out there.
We're doing the holiday party at Gillespie's.
At Gillespie's,
When?
December 18th.
It's a Wednesday, the only time they left, because, you know, we procrastinate. We found it. Have you been to an event at Gillespie's?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a campaign event on October 6th at Columbus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're having a football party. I did want to mention this too at some point. We have,
Yeah, what do you got?
so I do a community meeting once a month, and next week we have our state senator coming to the community meeting. A lot of times I get questions I can't answer. There's things we don't control at a city level, like insurance, the new condo legislation, you know, with reserves and 40-year inspections. There's so much going on that's legislated at the state level that we kind of get blamed for or questioned about at the city level. So our state senator, Jason Pizzo, is coming to answer a lot of these really important questions.
Take some of the heat off you?
Yeah. Well, and to really educate, right? Because there have been so many changes post Surfside to condo legislation.
Yeah.
And then insurance, obviously, is another huge expense for people. We have the new FEMA maps.
It's creating a lot of fear in the condo marketplace, too.
Yeah, no, the condo marketplace, and I think this is one of those situations where it has to kind of like work its way through the system and it'll be okay. But right now, there's been underinvestment by a lot of condo boards where they just had the pressure to keep their fees steady and not to have reserves, and it's not going to work anymore. So
It's
expensive.
good. It's good and bad long term. I mean, so many associations are going to have to get through the financial impact, and it's really affecting the affordability of the owners of the individual units.
Yep.
But it's something that absolutely needed to be addressed, and it took a catastrophic event like the Champlain Towers in Surfside that really opened everybody's eyes and said, "Hey, let's look in the mirror for a second at what everybody is doing, and let's not go down the same pathway." I mean, it horrific, right? You don't want that to happen more often, as all of these buildings that are timing out from their development during that boom of construction to be an unsafe structure. So Jason's great, very well spoken. I've heard him a couple times, and it's a great way to go. And he definitely is in tune with all of this stuff. That's a great person to have speak there.
Yeah. So I'm excited to have you in District 3 in Pompano. Next Wednesday at the American Legion, I have my monthly meetings, but normally we have a topic, someone from the city, or last month I did a bring your trim. So
Bring your trim. What's
bring
that?
your trim.
Bring your trim notes for property taxes.
Bring your trim. I was like, bring your side piece.
It's not that exciting. Not even close.
Where is this Wednesday? It's
Not even close. Yeah, these meetings are great. I mean, no, not even close to that exciting. Just bring your trim notice and talk people through which part of it the city impacts, what part of it the county impacts, the school board, which taxing authorities are actually part of your property taxes and which ones aren't. Because there's just there are a lot of misconceptions, first of all. And then, someone's like, oh, my taxes doubled. How you look at us as a city? And I said, I just fought for the first millage rate decrease in 8 years in Pompano Beach. So it is not because of that. It's because maybe you bought the house a year and a half ago and it got reassessed. So, and your realtor maybe.
Happens every year, too.
Well, there's a general lack of knowledge for how it's impacted. And one of the funny things going through a real estate transaction, a lot of people ask, what are the property taxes? And in reality, you want to answer, well, here's what it is, but it doesn't matter to you because it's going to change.
Yeah. I take whatever the purchase price is, and it's 2%. I double it. So if it's $1 million house, I'm like, it's gonna be $20,000.
Yeah.
It's not, but that's at least I think
it's a safe line. Yeah.
I had a lot of friends that bought in D.R. Horton's Orchid Grove, which you
well, they have the CBD over there.
Yeah, well, right. And when they bought it, it was just the land tax value or whatever, and then so the taxes were more than double, right? So that came as a shock, especially on my friends on fixed incomes that were buying.
For sure, and it wasn't explained to them what the CDD is and how that shows up on your property tax bill.
Right.
And it's not necessarily its fault. It's confusing and it's not common.
The developer's certainly not pushing it.
No.
So we see your signs everywhere. How's election season going?
It's good. It's good. I'm out there knocking on doors, talking to people because that's my favorite part of it. It's a little hot and a little rainy, but I'm still managing to get it in.
Yeah, that's good.
And some people still have the same doormats they had 2 years ago. It's funny to walk
Looks like
out.
you're getting a lot of support. It's good to see.
Thank you. Yeah, we are. I think we have accomplished so much in 2 years. The terms are short, but so much. Like to your affordable housing, we have a developer buyout fee, so developers can not include affordable units in their new developments. They were able to pay $2,000, $300 to not put them in,
One
which is nothing.
time flat fee?
Per unit,
Okay,
but
okay.
still not, it was
That's
nothing.
still a drop in
The
the bucket.
and whereas the analysis showed the replacement cost was closer to 30,000, so it was, off by a factor of 10. So I was able to push through the first increase in the developer buyout fee. So we moved that up to 10,000 to match the county, which should over time incentivize developers to actually include these affordable units in new development. So things like that take time, but they're important to do in the
Very
future.
nice.
Awesome.
So what else are you proud of? What's your most proud moment or exciting moment
Proud
or
or-
rewarding? What's keeping you coming back for round 2?
I really do enjoy helping people out. So when someone's got an issue with the building department or a letter from code of compliance and they're just the bottom because they think that everything's falling apart and we can come together and resolve it, there's such satisfaction for the person and it just makes the job completely
Rewarding
worth
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've also spent a lot of time on partnerships, so I want to take Pompano, we're the 6th largest city in the county, and I want to elevate our status as a voice in the county. So I spent a lot of time meeting with school board members, principals, county elected officials, state elected officials. So these dialogues are important to kind of push forward the Pompano agenda elsewhere.
So what do you think drives someone to really get out there and want to give back to the community in the way that you're doing? I mean, you mentioned you moved around a lot as a kid. You love being here. You're an investor. You obviously know a lot of people and you hear what's going on around town, but that's not enough to drive your typical person into politics. So what do you think was the driving force behind it?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just not.
You think you're crazy?
I'm not typical. I was going to say I don't think I'm a typical person. I do think it's very public. You give up an awful lot. You really do. You can't go anywhere, including Publix, without getting stopped by someone who lives in Orchid Grove.
Right.
And it's got a
I mean,
neighborhood.
it's going to be tough.
So, and then I've got young kids. It's been hard on them at times too, because pulled a million directions. But I do think there's part of it is just being a little bit, a little crazy.
Well, you got to be driven. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I think last time we did our pod, I was telling you how I was on the HOA in my loft in Denver for like 2 months before I got into an altercation with one of the other homeowners and had to resign. But I mean, needless to say, I wouldn't make it very long in your job. So I thank you for what you're doing and appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, public service is definitely not something for everyone. You have to not only want to make a change, but have the motivation behind it. So thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome.
What with your campaign, what are some of the local endorsements that you've had that are supporting you and pushing you forward?
Well, I was endorsed by the realtors, which I'm very, very proud of, because like I said, Pompano Beach and real estate are two of
Did you
my
just tee that up for her?
favorite
Did you just tee it?
Maybe.
She said she was playing golf.
How'd I do? Better than my golf swing. Way better than my golf swing. But, and we are really in endorsement season right now, so I think there will be more to come. But
Awesome.
really, you guys we're ahead of things. So
Well, we're behind you. We hope
Thank you.
all goes well and you
It
continue
will.
to make an impact on the community.
thank you so much. Anything I can do for anyone out there, that is my
You'll
job.
be hearing from us.
Anything.
I already texted you 3 things.
Is that what's happening?
So Pompano has been definitely a city of change, right? As you mentioned, it looks different from 2011 to what it is today. I mean, honestly, from 2020 to today it's vastly different. Got Nathan playing footsie with me under the table.
Wrong person,
Yeah,
sorry.
you're
But as it continues to evolve, what are some of the things that you guys have done well that you've been able to bring forward and maybe other cities are emulating?
That's a good question.
Or are there any other cities you want to emulate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great one too.
You know how, like in business, you always look at a competitor or somebody you think is doing something really well. No, how can we do that and change it a little bit or make it our own or make it better? You guys ever take that approach?
I think it's almost the flip side of that for a lot of it. It's the prevention of certain things. So, and by eliminating what you don't want, you can get what you do want to. So you have to know what you don't want to. So most people who live here, like when you came here in 2005 and in 2011, they like a little bit of that sleepy town. They love the beach, like the historical Pompano, like our roots.
Briny guys?
Right, like our roots are important to Pompano.
Briny Pub, not Briny
So-
Half, right?
Briny Pub.
I think I've been there before.
No.
No. But our
Before
roots
midnight.
are important to us here, and I don't know that every city has that same that same like nostalgia and history and love for their
Yeah.
city. So, the Fort Lauderdale and Miami, just much bigger. So it's really important for us to retain the charm and the history of our city as we develop. So I look at examples for Pompano, and a lot of them aren't neighboring cities in South Florida. They're cities like Chattanooga, or like I go up to Blue Ridge, just these towns that have an awesome feel to them, that have like embraced their history and have some character to them, that I kind of bring back and say, why don't we incorporate some of this in it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I never would have thought of that.
Like, I love Chattanooga. It's an amazing town, and I every time I come back, I'm like, we should do this. And their public art program is amazing. We have a good public art program here, but theirs just incorporates their history in such an incredible way.
Public art program. Are you talking about like all the streetscapes and stuff like that? Or are you talking about actual arts and crafts? What's the public art program?
Knitting.
Yeah. Do you do knitting?
All the constituents within the town go to the public square and they all knit and
Yes.
do finger painting once a month.
There actually is a Pompano art class somewhere over
We
there.
have classes for everything.
I was looking out for my mom. Like, she needs something to do.
She needs
It's like,
Well, you
because I
go,
don't paint over
you
there.
go to a city like Chattanooga, and yeah, it's super historic. There's lots of people that want to keep that old school charm, but you could bring in some of the new ideas and the new benefits.
And they've done a great job there. And it's like great. They have their beautiful green space. They have some landmark features downtown, like the Sea Aquarium and art museum. So some of as we think through our downtown, one of the things that I'm pushing is let's not be characterless. Like, if we're gonna build it, let's build it around something that's an attraction that is that we can say is Pompano. And there's conversation about putting in a performing arts center there as a draw. And Fort Lauderdale has a performing arts center. There's lots of performing arts centers. We can get another one, I guess, but let's figure out something that makes us special and unique, like some of these other cities have done.
Yeah.
So.
You can feel it lose character. I mean, even like you said, the beach needed to be redone, but when you just see chain after chain after chain, it loses all the character. It really does.
A lot of the development in areas like Hollywood, for example, I think Hollywood's a great correlation for Pompano to look at. You have the same kind of feel. You have a downtown outside the beach area, then you have another concentration in the beach area with that boardwalk. And then they put in that lifestyle center right at the edge of Dania and Hollywood, right? You've got, what's it called?
Dania Point?
Dania Point, yeah, that's what I was looking for, thank you.
There's an anthropology there, so.
See, you teed me up on that one. But that is such an attractor that people, my neighbors in Boca, drive down to Dania Point to go to the Improv or the various restaurants. You guys have fairs down there, things like that. But something like that could be super attractive in Pompano. Is that what they're trying to do over by the track?
Yes, which way are we facing?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. That's how, whenever I meet with the developer of, it's called the Pomp out there, that's what I talk to them. I'm like, the best way I can think about what you want to do is Dania Point.
Is that Dania Point is the one that's off of 95?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So there'll be less retail, I think, there, maybe. But they have a whole live entertainment district planned. So fun things to do, activities,
The tractor's right off the highway there.
Yeah. And Topgolf is right there, and then so it is going to be a destination. So
100%.
concerts, all of that.
For sure.
That's a tough place to keep like a city vibe though, because that's not really what that area is for though. And I feel like even in a new town downtown, I mean, it's going to be hard. Like, for us, it's the boat parade or the Yuletide parade down, Atlantic Boulevard. Those are the little things I think about when I think about Pompano. So
Agreed.
keeping those traditions and
Untapped, like Old Town. Your Hollywood example is a great one. I actually grew up in Hollywood. I went to high school down there.
Where?
So Chaminade Madonna.
Okay. What was across the street from Hollywood?
Okay.
what was it called?
I always say
Chaminade Madonna.
I always say
Chaminade.
really fast. So only certain
What is it
if
called?
you know, you know.
Chaminade Madonna.
Chaminade
It was an
Madonna?
all-boys Catholic school, Chaminade, and an all-girls Catholic school, Madonna, and then they merged and...
Chaminade Madonna.
hyphen
You say that
Madonna.
10 times as fast as you can.
Madonna's a great role model for high school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In an all-girl school.
Right.
Yeah. But the character down there for me is really the boardwalk stuff.
Yeah,
Like Dania
100%.
Point doesn't, and you can't. Like that is all new commercial concrete,
Right.
But the character is retained there by the boardwalk.
100%. And that won't change it. You've had high-end businesses and developments come in there. There's some townhomes, condo developments going in there. But it still hasn't lost that charm. You still have some of those single-story hotel, motel, Holiday Inn style places.
French Canadian culture down there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge French Canadian community there. And same thing in Pompano. What I love most about Pompano is I used to have to tell people when traveling, where do you live or where do you work? And I'd have to say Fort Lauderdale. Now you can say Pompano, and people recognize that or know it. That was a heavy pour their name.
Those have water. It's Wednesday.
Oh, no. So with what you guys are planning here, the development, real estate is a big factor, creating opportunities for business is a big factor, and that brings jobs, that brings residents, that brings income and revenue to the local community, allowing you to do things. Mm-hmm. So what kind of businesses are coming in, or what are you excited about for the next couple of years in Pompano that you want to be a part of?
Yeah. So we attract a lot of hospitality businesses here, right? We a lot of tourism and hospitality, which gives us fun things to do. It's entertainment, but it requires a certain workforce and certain income levels too. So that feeds into our affordable housing issue. So I really think we need to be careful and ensure that the industries we have here, people can afford to live here too. So we want those people to be able to actually live in the community they're serving. I think we have a big industrial area too, and even with the industrial part out of the pump that I was talking about, we're going to there's going to be businesses coming in there that are higher end technical jobs, which I love seeing. I love seeing high paying jobs coming here, businesses that bring an educated workforce that afford to spend money here and afford to support the businesses here. So I think we need to be careful because we are so hospitality and tourism focused, and we need that to support all the people who live here. But we also need to make sure we have the high end part of our economy here.
And geographically speaking, Pompano's pretty big, right?
We are. I feel like we have just talked about Pompano here, but Pompano.
This was just on me. It's like anytime I talk about Pompano, it's like my corridor, like the beach and where I live. But Pompano,
your corridor,
my corridor.
Pompano. Think of. We're up. The Highlands is eastern northern Pompano, and then if you go out west, you're all the way to the turnpike, the industrial areas out there. We have a huge amount of industrial in our city. I think it's 21%. So that helps our economy, but we need to
big time.
Yeah.
I wonder how many of those businesses are Pompano residents versus people who live in neighboring cities.
I don't have that answer for you.
Interesting. Pompano's a huge warehouse community.
There's a lot more than you would expect.
Yeah.
A lot more.
There's a ton of industrial land here, and that actually, it's very helpful to balance an economy out, because if it's just all commercial, retail, hospitality, you don't have the whole level of income that you want.
It would have been a really interesting impact if Amazon did come into to that warehouse space by Pomp. That would have been very intriguing for the good and the bad, to be honest with you.
I'm actually excited about the direction they're going. They asked for a couple changes because when they did their plan development there, they thought Amazon was the tenant. So they didn't include certain uses in the industrial area because they were like, that's Amazon, we don't need that.
Yeah. Jeff's got it.
But yeah, exactly. We don't have to worry. But now they've had to think about, all right, it's not Amazon, what kind of, maybe we need some additional uses allowed in there. So they came back to us with just a couple additional uses, and they're going to maybe provide some technical jobs and some jobs that we want here. Like there's some maybe Boeing services or things like that could be there. They're not noxious or anything that has fumes or, it's not heavy industrial. It's very, very light industrial. Right, no, there's no chemicals, there's no, as you see, a chimney with none of that stuff. It's all really, clean, contained, but some actual, technical services.
So what's the main focus, would you say, of the commission right now? Is it creating opportunity with employment and drawing people to Pompano? Is it balancing the charm and the development? Is it traffic studies? Is it infrastructure time before we get too far down the pathway of development? What would you say is the main focus that we can see with everything going on in Pompano?
I think we each have our own focus. I obviously am focused on, see, it's not just me, I'm focused on traffic.
I don't know what you guys are doing, but...
2 out of 3 of them. I'm focused on...
Our producer sounded like Sorry.
I don't think you did that.
Everything in here breaks.
just a matter of when.
Last time it was a chair.
Oh, God. If this chair breaks, I'm
It won't be. I've tightened all the screws. QAQC. So what are you excited about?
how excited. Well, so I am worried about traffic. I seem to be the only commissioner worried about traffic. That's my big fight up there. They call me a dog with a bone because I won't stop talking about cars because I have represented district that drives. Each house has 2 or 3 cars. We have teenage kids that drive. We drive to work. My residents have plumbing businesses with vans on the road. So we need to make sure our roads are working, and the lane reduction on Atlantic Boulevard is a problem we are going to have to fix.
That has been a hot topic.
Yes.
Huh?
No comment.
Yeah, we are going to have to fix that. So I'm the only one who thinks
We
that.
need to
but
change our freaking meeting schedules around here for anyone that works coming from west. Yeah.
it is tragic, to be honest. We are growing so much and they want to put up 3,000 apartments right there. And we're going to be 2 lanes at.
It looks nice now.
It does look
I'm not going to lie, it looks
I agree.
nice. But what was shame on me for not getting more involved in this earlier. Again, it's not a my corridor. It doesn't really affect me, right? But what was the whole thought process behind that? That they would divert traffic into other areas? Is there a discussion of reopening McNabb? I mean, what was the thought process behind knowing that other than beautification?
And the reason is beautification, and there's an argument that it was unsafe. Because there are accidents, but there are always going to be accidents on major arteries, and Dixie and Atlantic and 95 those are where major arteries come together. I call that kind of the transit hub of our city, and we've just taken it and bottlenecked it. So, and it is in the name of walkability and beautification. So I'm all for beautification. We should push it into the neighborhoods, into the communities. We should beautify as much as we can with the money we have, but not like to take away not to sacrifice that. So, and in the end, our downtown, the developer came in and said, and they just rejected Atlantic Boulevard for walking frontage. They said it's too busy. I mean, it's where there's a racetrack, gas station, fast food restaurants. It's where you get off of.
You don't want to walk around the racetrack gas station.
I don't. I have with a homeless outreach team before. I have definitely done some ride-alongs and walked through there, and it's just not the right place for walkability. So we have created just absolute congestion right there. We will have to fix that, but I'm gonna leave that at that because the rest of the commission doesn't agree with me. And
Well, I mean, think about it. Not to play devil's advocate, I think you have enough of that.
yeah,
But that 20-year plan, if that's going to be the downtown area, do you want it to be a major artery? I remember in Denver when I lived there in the 90s.
I don't know that you can avoid that.
right. So it's the
Dixie's a
only
pass through.
Well, I'm not. You probably can't because I don't know where else unless you open McNabb.
But
I mean, you want to
Atlantic's,
divert all the traffic to Cobins, and then what?
no, but what you're missing is Boulevard is the only road in our city that goes from I-95 to the beach. So you can talk
Right.
about McNabb or Copans or whatever you want, but
It's not gonna get
none of those are relevant.
evacuation.
It is an evacuation route. It is the major artery that connects the pond that we've been talking about, Topgolf, to the beach. So for me, we've just taken and cut off our 2 major destinations from each other by bottlenecking it. And I want
Yeah,
us to
there's
be
no
able to
other
go back,
options, yeah.
except through neighborhoods. And that's where
And you don't want to encourage that.
well, and that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And that's why that is really what got me off the sidelines to run, because the cut through traffic in our neighborhoods is terrible.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
I go up and down First every day, coming to and from. I come off the turnpike, Coconut Creek.
I mean, even people flying through here now.
Because it's Uber drivers, because Uber just, it tells you that's the quickest way. It takes you off the major roads through the neighborhoods.
Yeah, off Second back here, just parallel to.
So now that that's done, what's the solution? Or is there no solution? Tunnels? All you
Flying
on?
cars.
Flying
Flying
cars.
cars.
Does that work by?
I mean, I think the 15-foot medians with the trees, we're going to have to utilize them differently going forward. We're going to have to fix it. But that's the argument was this giant investment there also attracted this master developer to come to the downtown. Like it's this whole process, and it shows them that we're willing to invest, so they're willing to invest. So as the master developer starts on the downtown, where we have a plan to move City Hall. So City Hall is getting moved from where it is to a brand new building along 95, just north of Atlantic. As this takes shape, I think we'll realize that we need to be able to get people in and out of this downtown. So the downtown is going to be centered on MLK, which we should have done a better job connecting to Old Town. That's really where I can see walkability, and I mean,
We're on the airport road there.
yeah. So I mean, my vision of all of it would have been MLK, connect that road with walkability and biking, and that is the center of the downtown. And then we could have done some really cool connectivity through Old Town, like Hollywood has bike lanes on roads, to connect to the air park.
Is that still possible over there? That's a pretty wide road.
Yeah, and it'll get done as part of the downtown. There will be, that's where people
All the way down
actually
to
walk.
by the airport?
No, not that far. That's 10th. Remember 10th?
Is 10th the one that runs around the track? Or
Yeah.
next to the track?
Yeah. But I do think it would have been great if we had connected MLK, which is 3rd, to the 10th and the air park, because then you really would have created connectivity all the way around the city,
Yeah.
up to Copans, up to 14th.
That's a good idea.
That would-
10th is
that
pretty
would
wide.
be-
You have the rim or most of the city property.
So as we, you can tell, we can talk about Pompano and the evolution all day and every day.
Same.
I have one last question for you, and that's going to be, where is your destination? What's your goal when it comes to public service? Is it city commission is it for you, where you can make a local impact, or can we see something further in your future?
Right now, I'm really focused on my job. I'm running again for my seat as District 3 City Commissioner. I love what I do. I love helping the people of our city. I love District 3. I love the neighborhoods. So that's really what I'm focused on right now. Our terms are a short 2 years, so you're constantly running anyway, so I haven't really had time to think about anything that might be next for me. I also have 2 young kids, and this job it's demanding on your time, with ribbon cuttings and events and meetings. So my focus is my family and District 3 right now.
Awesome. Well, we're excited. Pompano is definitely a place of innovation, a place of growth, and definitely a place to watch out for. And that's no bull.
That is noble.
No.
We appreciate you coming, Allison. Thanks for sharing your insight with us, and we're excited to see what comes forward from you.
Thank you
very
so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Fun.